Hey there, it's Angela, and I'm so glad you found your way here to architecting. Creative careers can be stressful, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but this is your landing pad for raw honesty. I'll help you get clarity, reconnect with your passion, and have the career of your dreams. If you're ready to make a difference, have an impact, and say bye-bye to burnout, stick with me, and let's get architecting. Hey Bright Lights, it's Angela. Welcome to Architecting, a safe space for raw honesty about issues in our creative career. There are so many resources available for you. Just go to my website, architectingpodcast.com. There's free downloads. You can access all 250 episodes of the podcast, plus get access to other things like my YouTube channel, bonus content, shorts, as well as longer content that I did not put on the podcast from courses I've taught in the past. So make sure you take advantage of all these resources, because being creative in a world that focuses on productivity or on ROI can feel really challenging. And I want to tell you that it's not, that now more than ever, creativity and innovation are needed. And this really gets right into what I wanted to talk about today, which is psychological safety in the workplace. A former colleague of mine who's now studying at Harvard Business School, brilliant mind, Derek Bransby, just recently co-authored an article that digs into some of the research he has been doing around psychological safety. And it may come as no surprise to you that today's workforce is getting younger. People are choosing to retire earlier, move out of the way, something that could be seen as a benefit, because if you have established people with years of experience in a leadership position and they're going to be around for the next 15 plus years, there's nowhere to go if you're younger. You might have the qualifications to take over that leadership role, but you can't do it because there's already someone there and that person isn't retiring. We also know that way back, 20 plus years ago, there was a big recession. It happened around the time that I was graduating from college, that caused a lot of people in Gen X to leave the profession because firms were downsizing. There was nowhere for them to go. They left, they never came back, which means we've got a lot of millennials and even now some Gen Zers in the workplace who are being put into upward mobility very quickly. And that can feel like a really good thing. But whether you are yourself a Gen Xer trying to deal with staff who are millennials or Zs and noticing that there may be a little bit of friction, or you are somebody who is looking for or recently has gotten put in a leadership role who is a millennial or Gen Z, you're within what Derek's article identifies as an experience bubble in our profession because of the complexity of it. You don't graduate with a degree and be anywhere near ready to be in a leadership role. There's just too much that you can only learn through experience. You could feel really scared of making a mistake. And it is that fear of failure, that fear of making a mistake, that can cause you to probably have much more catastrophic results, which might seem counterintuitive, right? Because you would think, well, if I'm afraid of making mistakes, it means I'm going to be more cautious or more careful. Not true. People who are afraid of making mistakes don't speak up. They don't want to seem stupid. They don't want to seem incompetent. They think that they can somehow fill in the knowledge gap on their own, somehow figure it out, and they're afraid to say, I don't know. it's uncomfortable to fail. So, I always tell my kids when they say, what'd you do at work today? I'll say things like, oh, I failed all day long. And, I'm half joking, but in truth, that is the best answer I could give, because as a creative person, I ought to be experimenting all day, and I'm probably going to fail more than I succeed. And that's not only a good thing, but the only way I'm going to be able to do anything that's meaningful or innovative. However, when you're new at a job and you've been given a significant role on a project, it doesn't always have to be a titled leadership position where there's a certain amount of leadership skills that get rolled into that. It doesn't feel so funny anymore to joke about failing. Failing feels like a really big deal. It feels like the one thing under any circumstance that you do not want to do. And because of that, it can feel scary to embrace a new perspective or try something that you don't know will work, because you want to look good. You want to impress people. You want them to continue to give you this opportunity and more in the future, not pull you back because they don't think you can handle it. On the other side of this, if you are trying to empower younger staff in a role, a big tip-off may be that your staff isn't asking questions, that they don't offer up ideas, that they just kind of stay quiet, more of a cave time experience of work, and trot it back out. It may not be what you're expecting. To just be critical, to be frustrated and say, I already explained this to you, you didn't listen to me, and now you have produced something that doesn't work. Tempting as it might be to say something like that, that feels awful disciplinary. It might feel like that's warranted because it's not okay for somebody to just blatantly disregard instructions when you're trying to give them directives on a project or disregard your expertise. And they should know better than that, and they should learn not to do that. It's important to realize that when you have that one negative kind of disciplinary conversation, that you can completely erode the psychological safety you have with those individuals who you are going to have to continue working with. If you're anything like me, these are great people with a lot of talent. It's not like they're incompetent imbeciles barely hanging on to their job. We want them around. We want them to keep growing and contributing. And we have to realize that one negative encounter requires multiple positive encounters just to get balanced out. That's how devastating feeling like you failed can be to psychological safety. Now, you might say, why do I care about this psychological safety that you speak of so much? Why is this so important? Unlike the workplace of the past, which was very hierarchical and very much about paying your dues and following instructions, even in a creative profession like architecture, a lot of it was the guru model where you came to sit at the feet of the master and to emulate the master. This is no longer true of any workplace culture, especially not when we want creativity and innovation. We can't get the benefit of someone's point of view if they don't feel comfortable putting ideas out there, sharing thoughts, voicing dissent, asking questions. So you can see how it is counterproductive to building trust and really having a team that has one another's back, that isn't infighting or competing with one another, but sees how everyone's contribution is making the final result better and better and better. And when we see somebody fail, then what do? It starts when you first create an assignment for somebody or put them in a role. As a person who is more seasoned, it is really your responsibility to make sure that they understand that what they're being asked to do is a complex and uncertain problem. In the article that I'm referencing that my friend Derek wrote, he really focuses on that. When you have set the tone that there's no silver bullet here, there's no right answer, it's a process, and it's a process where there's going to be trial and error. You're framing expectations that this person that you are asking to take on an assignment doesn't have to get it right the first time, that they can show you work in progress, that they can focus more on process and how the process is building up information about what will and won't work. And you can begin to help advise them on how they could try something different, or how they could ask better questions in the process, or direct them to sources, or help them work better with the client. But that can't happen if they feel like they have to show you the right answer, the perfect polished solution. Right out of the gate, make sure that everybody understands we are not expecting perfection, and that this is a complex problem, and that solving it is going to be messy. Next up, ask questions yourself. That can be really challenging if you are a busy person, and part of what you're trying to do by delegating is to clear your own plate off. But scheduling even a half hour where you say, tell me about what's going on, and you ask questions, does two things. One, it shows your engagement and interest in the ideas of someone who is not you and not as experienced as you, which makes that person feel empowered. But asking questions is also a very non-threatening way to help someone come around to seeing what you may see. Asking questions helps them to see. So you could start to say, how will this activity happen in this space? Map it out for me. And the minute they do, they're going to see why what they're doing doesn't work. And you can coach them through that. Or you can say, have you considered XYZ? And it doesn't matter if you have told them about XYZ in the past. Just by asking it as a question, you allow that person to kind of recoup and say, oh, I forgot. Or no, I haven't, but I will. Or I'm not sure how XYZ fits into what I am doing. Or maybe they will say, well, I did, but this is what I got. It didn't feel like it worked. And then you can gently redirect them. The last part of creating psychological safety is appreciation. Everybody wants to hear that they did a good job. I'm not trying to say that we need to be handing out praise if it's unwarranted. But what I am saying is you can focus on what the person is doing right, even if all it is having this conversation with you. Maybe what they produced is completely off target, but just saying, I love having this conversation with you, and I really appreciate how open you are to sharing your ideas and listening to my suggestions. That alone is enough to make someone feel like it was okay that they did what they did, and that they can course correct for the deficiencies, and that they can come to you. Because if they do that, if they come to you more often, their failures are going to be a lot easier to move past and to learn from than if they're afraid to show anyone anything or ask any questions until they feel like they've finished something. Then they have put a lot of time and effort in. The deadline is approaching. It's harder to fix, and you are more likely to feel frustrated than if we can establish that trust and work together early and often. Whether you are the seasoned professional trying to train and empower someone with less experience, or you are that person with less experience trying to step into a new role, really think about the fact that you probably are dealing with an experience bubble, that there are going to be big gaps between what someone is capable of and the skill set needed to do the job with a great deal of proficiency. But also recognize that good ideas can come from anyone at any level. And that even if someone didn't get an idea right this time, encouraging them to iterate and think and put ideas forward is the best way to grow them as a creative professional. One thing I often explore with my coaching clients is the underlying feelings behind behaviors. And they're often connected to beliefs that we don't know we have. And at the root of whatever those beliefs are is fear. Regardless of whether you are the person delegating or the person who is taking on more responsibility or a leadership role, really anchor into that feeling of safety. One thing I've been working with every day is saying, I'm safe, I am safe, I am safe. I'm grounded. I have nothing to protect or defend, and I can be in my higher self mode. I can see the patterns, and I can meet resistance with curiosity. This serves us no matter what, and you can certainly, and I would recommend going through understanding where your limiting beliefs might be, but this works even if you aren't sure what they are, because you are the person delegating and you feel that the person who you delegated to isn't listening to you or isn't respecting you. You're afraid. You feel like they're trying to undermine you. So what will you do? You will try to squash it. You will immediately go into defense mode and try to establish your expertise and your knowledge and your authority. If we flip it around and you are the person who is taking on the new position, the fear is that you're not going to do a good job, you're going to fail, all of that. And so what will you do? You may be defensive. You may push back. If we think about it that way, and we can all come at it saying, I have nothing to protect or defend. That's not what we're doing here. I'm safe. Now we can really have a much more productive conversation about what we think and why we may agree or disagree with something or not understand something without having to feel that our very safety is being put on the line. Hope that this was helpful for you today, that you understand the value of respecting everyone at every level, whether you are managing down or trying to grow up in your career, and that this helps us to all deal with the times when things don't go right on a project in a way that helps everyone to learn and to grow and get it right for the project. Get it right for the sake of those that have to use this space once we leave, because, we're just here for a short time to come up with ideas, but that space, once it is built, will have to be used by people for many, many years to come. So we don't want to get it wrong. We really want to make sure that we're working together, that we're collaborating, that we're asking questions. We're not going to ignore problems, but we're also not going to let the fact that there are problems mean that we can't get to a solution. We absolutely can, as long as everybody is willing to learn and grow from the situation, willing to keep asking questions, willing to keep sharing and touching base more often, so that those failures are the small ones that are the good kind, not the catastrophic ones that throw us all off track and really erode not only someone's psychological safety, but the trust of working together in the future. If this was helpful to you, definitely like, share, subscribe, share your insights, and tag me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I'm at Architecting Podcast. I'd love to hear what you think, how you're experiencing this, whether you have more questions, if you try it, if it's working for you. And don't forget to send me your questions as well. I am gearing up to do a Ask Me Anything segment where I will take a question from someone in the architecting community. So if there is a recent experience you had that's been tough, or a challenge you're going through, or something you're just not sure about, make sure that you reach out to me. You can direct message me, send me your question, and I'd be happy to answer it. Don't be afraid of asking a question, because that is how we learn. Take care, everyone. Love you so much. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.